Session 6. Authenticity. Whew, today is a bruiser of a topic. I'm pretty jacked about it though, because I'm gonna do a little bit of my philosophical thing. But before we get into that, man, Tea with TC went awesome. So thank you to everyone who participated in that. Special thanks to Liat, and Casey and Rebecca and Danielle and Ryan and everyone who participated. I mean, like, I had so much fun. I really needed it, man. It was awesome. I really carried with me like the joy and the fun and just enthusiasm from that. All like I'm still rocking off that high. So honest to God, it was so cool. It was actually so cool. We're gonna do it again Monday, 8:30 Pacific and 11:30 Eastern. I really hope many of you show up. Just register, turn your camera on, and let's just talk. I mean, there's no agenda, man. It's BCBA support group /BS. Have a good time. Bring up whatever topic you want. Let's just commiserate and have a good, just talk, chat it up, have some tea, if you will. But anyway, so it's been a couple days since I've done a vlog. I have been pretty busy. It's comps. It's the last week of comps, comprehensive exams, and I had a defense this week, and then I also have 2 finals. I've been pretty under the gun with those things, so it's been difficult to find the time. I did record a couple of chapters for. I'm going to do the announcement right now. The newest. The newest segment we're going to be doing on the channel. It's going to be fireside chat / story time with Dimitri, and we'll be reading Science of Human Behavior together. I'm hoping that people will like that. I took Ryan's advice and got my lights and stuff set up and did the whole routine. So I'm hoping that that's meaningful and people find value in it. It's an experiment. If anything, it's an opportunity for me to go through Science of Human Behavior out loud. And with an audience that might have some interesting insight into what it means and all that kind of stuff. So I guess we'll call it, it's kind of like a TC book club. So yeah, if you don't have a copy, get one, maybe read along. You don't really have to, you'll be able to listen to it, etc. But anyway, so today's topic, let's just get into it. Today's topic is authenticity. Now, I sat down and really wrote a lot of thoughts about this, and I'm probably going to be doing a good amount of reading today because I want to make sure that I follow the ideas properly and I keep it in line and in order, because this is kind of one of those things where if I don't, I could potentially go off the rails and get a little too wordy and ranty. So I'm just going to go into it and just kind of see where it takes us. Through the course of our discussions, a lot of existential questions came up that are very real and foundational to the human condition. One of them was the reality that some people are in the middle of a complete existential awakening. The whole thing started out as an expanded spring break and now has slowly moved us through all the stages of grief, from fear to anxiety to actual grief to anger, but to acceptance now, to the embrace of the slower, more familiar lifestyle. So I'm going to ask yourself right now, probably, what the hell does that have to do with authenticity? And I promise you, we're going to get there, okay? I'm going to tell you. I'm going to talk about a particular philosopher today. His name is Albert Camus, and a lot of people probably know him from The Plague, if you took a intro to philosophy class or something, maybe in college. But I'm going to refer to a different work of his called The Myth of Sisyphus, based on the Myth of Sisyphus. And what I'm going to be specifically targeting here is how he deconstructs the Myth of Sisyphus and how he applies it to our very life and our very existence. A couple things about all these guys really is that, and that's like, we talked about Nietzsche a little bit before, that's why I'm saying all these guys, but like Camus, Nietzsche, Jean-Paul Sartre, Kierkegaard, a lot of the existential philosophers that you might ever hear me reference, like, they're pretty dark, and they're also pretty heady, and they're also very emo. Like, these guys are the original emo. So Dashboard Confessionals got nothing on these dudes. But anyway, Albert Camus, or at least the myth of Sisyphus. Who was Sisyphus? If you're not familiar with the myth of Sisyphus, Sisyphus was an ancient Greek king who challenged the gods' authority and as a result was punished by them for his hubris to roll a boulder up a hill every single day just to watch it roll back down. And his punishment was to suffer the mundanity and the physical pain that went with and the exhaustion that went through it. Of experiencing the meaningless of his existence. It was the ultimate psychological torture, which is a perfect springboard for someone like Albert Camus to take it and give us some ideas around. So how did Camus use this allegory, this myth, this story of Sisyphus? Well, he took it as an analogy for our lives. He saw us as, and we use the notion of rats in a maze, and we use the phrase rat race a lot, which is very similar. It's like it's Sisyphean, man. We roll boulders up of hills every single day, and they roll back down, and we rinse, wash, repeat. We've been slaves to our schedules and to our world. It's been a common theme that's been going on. So I'm going to go back to reading because I want to make sure that I get this right. Camus believed that the repetitive nature of the task demonstrated the futility of life, the absurdity of it, the meaningless of it. See, that was kind of the point of the punishment, right? Was that it was just supposed to be so mundane and so repetitive as to devastate and destroy any hope he had. Like that was the torture. It also represented the emotional enslavement we have to non-existent things in life. Laws, social structures, morals, religion, leading him to the conclusion life is actually absurd. You see, Camus interpreted the rock as all the things that we do that we have a sense of obligation towards and that we give intrinsic value to. And by intrinsic value, we say that or that is to say that things that have meaning in and of themselves just by existing. For example, diamonds. In any other time, in any other place, in another world, diamonds could just be shiny rocks. And they really are just shiny rocks. They only have value because we give them value. We choose to share in the notion or the idea that they have value. Money is that. What's special about a dollar bill other than the fact that we have all agreed as a verbal community to ascribe the particular value to it and to act in accordance with that thing actually having value? There's nothing in and of itself. There's nothing built into it that actually gives it its value, right? So that's what his conclusion was, that it's not just those things that are like that, but life in and of itself is that. And therefore, any despair, any of the emotions that we feel towards it are absurd. So, what does this have to do with authenticity? We'll get there. You see, Camus' conclusions were attempts to destroy the power and the hold those things have over us. The illusion that they somehow have some special, transcendent, beyond the realm of our comprehension, divinely inspired essence. When in reality, it is we who give them meaning, we who give them power, who create them, we who are their originators, their masters. Like Sisyphus, though, we continue to roll our rocks up our hills over and over and over again, just to repeat and to engage in the mundanity of our existence. So, what is authenticity and how does it relate to this thing? Quite simply, authenticity is the moment of awakening towards that reality and accepting it. It's recognizing that beliefs, interests, desires, aims, goals, dreams that each of us have deep down are ours and ours alone, and that we choose them and we ascribe meaning to them. It's living an examined life. It's pursuing everything in accordance to your understanding, to your beliefs, to your interests. It's recognizing the humor in the absurdity. Authenticity is not the imposition of is not acting in accordance with the imposition of expectations, obligations, of regulations, and prescriptions of others that are inflicted on you. Authenticity is acting in such a way as you design and choose those things. So here's the challenge. Well, actually, before I get to the challenge, I want to say a couple more things about authenticity. Authenticity is one of those things that's become a very buzzy word. You have things like authentic leadership and various OBM and cool leadership type stuff. You have things like, being authentic is kind of like being an edgelord and that kind of thing. I get accused of that a lot. When in reality, authenticity is just being you. Do you. Live you. Be regardless of the consequences. Damn the torpedoes. So that has to do with the challenge today. What I wanted to do with that was give the philosophical springboard that explains that, meaning is arbitrary, in the words of Hayes, Stephen Hayes. Okay, there are arbitrary relationships and arbitrariness of stimuli that exists, and we derive a variety of meanings based on the different relations that we ascribe to those things and agree upon and share as a verbal community, but they are illusory. They are not real. So what's your challenge? Well, your challenge is to be authentic at least once this week. Tell the truth. Tell your truth. No matter what, even if it hurts you. Be you. Act in accordance with your beliefs. Be principled. Act in accordance with your values. Now, some of you might say, I don't know what my values are. Well, we already talked about doing free writes. Sit down and try to determine what are those values? What are the things that give you meaning? What is it for you to be able to act in such a way as to express yourself in the most authentic fashion? What is it to be you in your most raw form? Now, that's not an excuse to be a complete a-hole, so let's check that. But I think that it is an opportunity to drop the facades, drop some of the social controls that exist in us, and maybe speak up in some of those situations where you wish you had when you walked out of the room later and you're kicking yourself in the ass for not doing it. This entire idea is Camus distills it actually very nicely, and I'm going to leave you with this quote. The only way to deal with an unfree world is to become absolutely free. So that your very existence is an act of rebellion. So be authentic, be rebellious, be marvelous.